Okay. All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited to learn today from our two guest speakers. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So we are lucky we have Amy Porteous from Inspire Success and Michelle Clark from the DOE. And they are going to talk to us today about not only the career coaching framework, but MTMDSS and iLab. So I'm very excited to learn all about that. We are recording today. Feel free as we go along if you want to put comments or questions in the chat, and I'll monitor that. But this is a session brought to you by Counselor Connect through our strategic priority teams. So this is from our comprehensive school counseling strategic priority team. And we have just an amazing team of people that are sharing their expertise for free and developing this content based on the needs that you have identified around the state. So without further ado, I will go ahead and I will mute myself and I'll turn it over to our guest speakers. And you ladies just let me know when you want me to advance the slide.
Well, I guess I will take on the introductions of the introductions. So like Sam said, my name is Amy Porteous. I'm the Director of School Counseling Initiatives for Inspire Success. Michelle, you want to throw in anything about yourself there?
So Michelle Clark, I am the Director of Student School Family Engagement. It looks like I didn't update the slide, but that's okay because my title's really long anyway. But I've been at the DOE for about a little over 5 years working in kind of the school counseling, mental health space.
Excellent. So before we move on, I know we have a smaller audience today, but I would like to hear from you, if you don't mind unmuting and just telling us what is your role within the career advising, career coaching world, just so we kind of have an idea of who we're talking to. Can some people unmute and tell me who we've got here today?
I'm Heather Barron Caudell with Regional Opportunity Initiatives, and I am the Career Connections Project Coordinator. And so I support two different grants that we have through the CHE all around career coaching. So we've hired coaches and supporting their professional development, but then also doing some work with districts in our region around career coaching.
Heather, I feel like maybe we've met before.
Maybe a time or two.
Yes, a time or two, yes. Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Jessica Hoseclaw, and I'm the career coach at Shakamak High School with the ROI Career Grant.
Excellent. Welcome, Jessica. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Anyone else want to share who we're talking with today?
I'm Jen Steinkamp. I'm a school counselor at Batesville High School. So I'm working with seniors. Just want to get more information.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Nice to see you, Jen. Anybody else? Okay, so in the audience today, and then some of the people that I'm sure signed up so they can watch the recording later, we anticipate that we're having some school counselors, but we are also having some career coaches, and maybe some district level people, some people running some grants. So that's great. So go ahead and hit the next slide for me, Sam. So here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about defining career coaching, career advising. This is not a new concept in Indiana, but are new terms sometimes that are out there. And so what's the difference between career coaching, career advising? How does it align with what we're already doing as school counselors in the comprehensive school counseling program? And we're going to integrate it a little bit into the multi-tier, multi-domain system of support, pointing out different tiers, tiers 1, 2, and 3, and how that plays into college and career readiness. And then we'll talk about the career coaching framework and an overview of the iLab Indiana tools. So that's what we're going to do today. Thanks. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about what's the difference between career coaching and career advising. There are a couple of key differences there that you probably want to keep in mind when you're having these conversations with stakeholders, etc. So career advising tends to focus on that providing of information, that guidance about different career paths, etc. Maybe a little more traditionally what we do with students, like telling them about careers, etc. Career coaching then is meant to be more action oriented. You're helping individuals develop really specific skills and strategies, helping them decide what pathway they want to be on, and then how they're going to meet those things, how they're going to meet those goals or those benchmarks. So essentially, an advisor is going to be giving information while a coach is going to help students create actionable steps and goal setting within that. So you can see how in our K-12 realm right now, and where we are headed in Indiana, career coaches are going to play a vital part impacting what students do and getting ready for post-secondary readiness, especially along those lines of self-awareness, understanding career pathways, beyond just having the information, and then also providing some experiential learning opportunities. Next slide. So before we kind of jump in here, we want to make sure that we remind ourselves from our perspective, and again, Sam told you that this is coming from the Comprehensive School Counseling Committee. So from our perspective, we're going to embed that career coaching concept within an already well-established comprehensive school counseling program. So just reminding you that counselors are working in, school counselors have always been working in the academic field, the student well-being field, college and career domain, etc. So in Indiana, school counselors are provided with a comprehensive school counseling program called Carrying the Torch to Student Success. We're not necessarily going to talk about that at all today, but if you are interested in that, we will have our contact information at the end and be happy to share that with you. But looking at the national motto, we want to remind ourselves that preparing students for college and career readiness is not new in Indiana, right? That's not something that's brand new. We're just with this focus that we're in now, simply shining a spotlight on how we're doing that as schools and asking ourselves to assess how we might be able to do that better in order to impact our students. What do we need? Who do we need? How do we need to align that work together? So from that perspective, then career coaching efforts benefit from being part of an already well-established comprehensive school counseling program. So ASCA already provides us with a pretty in-depth, clear role definition for school counselors in that career development realm. So I give you just a minute to read what school counselors are supposed to be doing within that college and career domain. So that's a position statement from ASCA, and you can all go to schoolcounselor.org and dive into that a little bit more. They have a lot of good resources there if that you're interested in that. But what we need to do then is look at the career coaching piece of that. Noting that the emphasis for school counselors is that all students benefit from their career development as a work of a school counselor. So then we can say that the role of a career coach is also a very vital part of that, and maybe in a more specialized way, with a focus that could possibly drill down a layer or two into specific student needs. But it needs to be a value add, of course, to the overall school mission and vision, as well as the work of the school counselors. And not only them, remember, as we're talking about this, as you're considering career coaching in your own programming, you don't want to just involve your school counselors and your career coaches, but you want to talk about who are your work-based learning coordinators? What do your CTE teachers, what roles do they play in this? Do you have a really strong preparing for college and careers program, etc.? Good CCR preparation, of course, is going to involve everybody. And so as you are developing this, or as you are looking to make your career coaching more robust, you want to make sure you're involving all those entities in this. So basically, we're asking you to consider who are your champions in your building, in your district, in your program for this CCR work that you need to do, or this career coaching work that you need to do. So here are some best practices that we have put together for you to consider. So best practices that career coaches are an integral part of your comprehensive school counseling program. It is overly simplified to say it this way, but it is a good foundational piece, is to consider that school counselors would do the tier 1 CCR, that which all students get, and then career coaches could drill down and focus a little bit more on your tiers 2 and tiers 3. I don't know that it's as natural for schools to think about tiers 2 and 3 in the college and career readiness domain, but that is a place where we can find some power behind having our career coaches in place and having a career coaching framework that we use. When you do that, then you're going to make sure that you're considering how are you going to have regular and ongoing collaboration. Communication is very tempting no matter what we're talking about to do silos in schools. We get that. So we would encourage you to make sure that you're making sure those collaboration and communication are scheduled and routine, and it's a way that you function when you're looking at college and career coaching. I will tell you that we've really enjoyed being part of the CHE grants in several different areas, and we find that what schools are telling us is that just that time to be together as a team, dedicated time to talk about this, is super helpful to them in creating something that works for their kids. So we would encourage you that that's something you need to incorporate into how you're doing this. You also need to think about data sharing and collection. Make sure it's a streamlined process. It's not just more data to collect for data's sake, but that you know exactly what decisions you're going to make based on the data that you see and how you're going to incorporate those things, including labor market insights, especially if you're doing it at a district level and what's hot in your area that your kids need to be aware of. Yeah, that's okay. We just want to make sure that you have clear roles and responsibilities defined. So again, you're not stepping on each other's toes, but you're also not leaving gaps. We're working together so that we're moving the same train down the same track in the college and career domain. Okay, next slide. We also want to make sure that you remember that like most work that we do in schools, this can be considered a system of tiered support. Again, college and career is not an area that we often spend time thinking of the tiered support, but this is a great opportunity where we are in Indiana right now for you to spend some time doing that. So if you're a school counselor, I'm sure you've seen this model a million times. But let's just remind you of the 4 domains that school counselors in Indiana are asked to cover. Behavior and attendance, always a big one. Academics, of course, student well-being, and then that college and career. So just as equal with the other domains that we need to talk about. And just give you a quick review of all these tiers is that Tier 1 is core curriculum for all students, and that is included in the CCR. So what career coaching, career advising, career readiness, strategies and activities are you going to have that all students are involved in? And when we say all students, we are going to challenge you to look at the CCR strategies that you already have in place and decide whether they actually are tier 1 or not. Often we create events around career coaching. Those are great. But it's a student opt-in process. So we want you to consider, how are you going to go past that? So is it truly tier 1? If you make it available to all kids, that's great. But if they're not opting into it, then it's not truly a tier 1 strategy. So we're going to challenge you a little bit when you are sitting and looking at how you are doing CCR for your students that you're contemplating. Is it truly a tier 1 activity? And then of course, we're going to go into tiers 2 and 3, and we'll spend a little bit more time in the next slides. But you're going to be creating a system where you need to have purposefully predetermined data who decide who qualifies for tier 2 and tier 3 services, even in that college and career domain. So let's consider a few more examples. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's talk about tier 1 a little bit. So obviously here are some tier 1 strategies that probably most of us have in place: school-wide career lessons, self-exploration tools. We hope that you're using Indiana Career Explorer, Naviance, Zello in a purposeful, meaningful way. Definitely one you want to consider whether it's opt-in or not. Are you using your advisory periods? Are you using your student wellness curriculum and integrating that, etc. So sorry, lost my train of thought there. But then you also want to consider in tier 1, then how are we going to assess our impact? Are we looking at pre and post tests? And again, I know if you've heard me talk about comprehensive counseling, you've heard me say this before. We're not telling you need to pre and post test everything you do with a kid, right? But what are the big hitters that we want to make sure kids learned what we thought they learned here? And are we pre and post testing that? Are we looking at our participation data? Are we surveying students to see that we're giving them what they think they need? If you go to the next slide, please. Then we're going to go into tier 2, so that targeted support. So often this is when you're going to work in that small group area And here's some examples of CCR work that can be considered tier 2. Definitely small groups. You would probably want to consider what are your traditionally marginalized populations, and maybe we're going to small group around them. Maybe we're going to small group with our first generation students. Maybe we're going to small group with our 21st century scholars. Maybe we're going to small group with our kids that didn't get what we thought they should get from a tier 1 strategy. So, but the idea is that you would make sure that you have a predetermined set of data. We're going to look at this data. When we see who qualifies, this is what we're going to do for them. And you need a champion for that data. Who's going to collect it? When is it going to be collected? When are we going to discuss it as a team? And what are we going to do with that data? So you would want to make sure that that is something that is built into your calendar. As you're building out your calendar for next school year, you'd want to go ahead and put those on there. I know that I am not alone, that if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't happen. So predetermining this is when we're going to look at XYZ's data is helpful as you look at tier 2. Other ideas would be, are you job shadowing? Do you have work-based learning opportunities specifically for marginalized students or students who need more structure in some way? And do we have individualized graduation plans? So IGP would be something above and beyond just that 4-year plan. We talked about career coaching being that place where you are helping them create actionable goals. So that individual graduation plan, yes, we want them to have a 4-year plan. They need to know where they're going. But this would be even above and beyond. What are the steps we are taking to make sure that these small groups of students know what the next steps are for them? Next slide, please. And then here's just some examples of tier 2 data qualifiers. Give you just a second to look through those. Some of these may resonate with you and some of these may not. You need to look at your data overall and decide where you're noticing areas that you need to focus on particular groups of students, and then figure out what kind of data would help you guide that. Go ahead, next slide. Yep. So tier 3 is then going to be definitely very similar to that, even in that CCR program. This is when you're going to do some one-on-one career coaching. We love one-on-one. Those of us who've chosen this profession, we want to sit and look at a kid in the eye. That's great. We know we can't do that with all 100% of our kids 100% of the time, but we do need to determine who are our high-risk students. Are we talking about dropout prevention? Are we talking about a kid who would benefit in the likelihood of graduating by having an apprenticeship, etc.? Who are those kids? How do we determine them? How do we collaborate with their families? How do we collaborate with community partners, etc.? Next slide, please. And then here are some examples of tier 3 data that you might want to consider when you're looking at those things. Sometimes our tier 3 data, we need to look at even beyond graduation, so that we have that transition between us and post-secondary and that bridging program. Great for you to have community stakeholders that you work with that would help bridge that gap between. And that is a lot. And I know that's a lot. This is a big job. It is a passion job. If you are excited about helping kids have hope, that the next steps for them are going to be good ones, this is a great space to be in. And there are a lot of tools. Michelle's going to jump into some specific tools here, but just know that anytime you have questions, if your team is deciding like, we are really stuck in this area, reach out to any one of us, get on Counselor Talk. There's a lot of people that are working. We are all working on this together. So you are not alone in this work, and we hope that we can be beneficial to you. Michelle, I'm turning it right over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Amy. All right, so I'm going to jump in a little bit to talk about the Indiana Career Coaching Framework. So House Enrolled Act 1002, which was in 2023, tasked the Commission for Higher Ed to develop a career coaching framework that would provide comprehensive and relevant information about career pathways to our students. And so in conjunction with the Department of Education, they created the Career Coaching Framework, which is based on the 3 little E's. So we talk about the 3 big E's and the 3 little E's, but explore, engage, and experience. So understanding that when students are in elementary and middle school, they really need to have that time to explore the different careers and pathways and opportunities for them and align them with their strengths and values. And then engage allows them to gain more insight in potential careers and understand, are those real viable pathways that will work for them? And then experience. So as you can see with the high school redesign, that's where we're really trying to get our students into those work-based learning or experiential opportunities so that they are having a taste of what their future could look like prior to going all the way down the road and being unsatisfied or unhappy. And so in that, I was not going to like go through the entire career coaching framework. But I did link it to this in this next slide. You can flip ahead. But some of the key highlights of the framework, and I will say when we started this work with the department, we did have a more expansive, detailed framework, and then just realized that it was a lot and it looked like a lot and it might have been overwhelming, especially those who are not working in the schools and are coming in for the first time to provide these career coaching experiences. And so CAG and DOE looked at it and wanted to kind of pare it down a little bit to the essential things that we felt students needed to know. And so they broke it down by grade band. So there is something for pre-K through 2nd grade, 3rd through 5th, 6th through 8th, 9, 10, and 11, 12. So there are different activities that are suggested per the grade level, because the career coaches, a lot of you all, I'm imagining, are coming in and working with elementary, middle, and high school, and just so having an understanding of what does that look like in the younger grades versus the older grades. There is definitely a mix of required components and suggested components. So there are some in the career coaching framework that are in Indiana code that should be being done every year or in those specified years. So I think that's also helpful for school districts to recognize that they're meeting those components. It is suggested that students have a career coaching session at least once per year beginning in grade 3. Obviously, that is going to look differently in the different grade levels and within the different grade or districts. Not every school district has a designated career coach at this time. A lot of some of the career advising and career lessons are happening with the school counselor, and that's great. That's why Amy kind of showed how it's kind of a both and a shared partnership between the two. And the activities that are listed on the career coaching framework can occur in various settings. So when you're looking at it, it doesn't mean that the coach has to do all of those things. It's a shared responsibility within the district. And so a lot of it is asset mapping and planning on who's going to do what and when and how, et cetera. And so some of those activities will be with a designated career coach. Some might be with the school counselor, or some just might occur in the classroom, such as like now that PCC is required for students preparing for college and careers, some of those activities can occur during that time as well. I did link the Indiana Career Coaching Framework. If you are not familiar with it, I definitely feel like that's a good start. And moving forward, we may release more and more activities within the different tiered levels, but for right now, that's kind of where we wanted to start with helping schools identify a way to navigate kind of through this college career readiness opportunities. Next slide. So I wanted to just take a minute, since there's not too many of you, I think it would be a great time to have a conversation. What part of the career coaching framework do you feel like you are successful in currently? And then what parts of the identified framework do you feel like you need additional support? Does anybody want to share kind of what they're feeling, seeing in their experiences? And you can unmute if you just want to say it, or you can put it in the chat, or you can not talk at all.
I can share while others gather their thoughts. I've noticed districts that I've worked with, the mandated activities from the framework, like for the high school level, are usually pretty solid, other than I know a lot of people are deciding if they want to move PCC or, like to a different grade level. But for the most part, I feel like those are pretty solid, and people have at least partially implemented all of those. The graduation plan, what I've heard from most districts is if they don't have a program like Zello that's systemically implemented, like K to 12, a lot of times the graduation plan is just kind of like a one-off activity that is not stored in a way that is like meaningful to be used past that one day, and that was my experience too at the middle school level. We would do the graduation plan and we would do our best, but it was basically a document, and we would, share it with the high school counselors, but they already had their Naviance. And so it kind of just was in limbo. So that's what I've been hearing a lot is like, how do we do the graduation plan, but make it a living document that doesn't just disappear?
That's good. That's good.
Well, if anybody doesn't have anything, I'll let you all in on a secret. Well, it's not really a secret, but the department is working on a graduation plan that is aligned with the new diploma. Because I know that was a huge ask moving forward, is to have something. I will be transparent in saying, like, I know there's been conversations of finding a system down the road that does a lot of this tracking for schools. I know some schools have funded programs like Zello and Naviance, but I felt pretty strongly that we needed to have some type of tool as like a stopgap until schools either found a funded program or the state, did some sort of statewide situation. So I have been working with CHE and our consultants at ESG to come up with a document that could be like a living document. It's actually a Google Doc or a Google Sheets. So school counselors can either utilize the sheet as it is, or they could make a copy and adapt it to their needs for their school district, or they could take the template and the action steps and the things that are tracked in the document and like put them into a system that they use. So, and maybe we may even see the vendors kind of like, take some of the information and put it into their systems. We often see that too, because they want to get your business. So I just thought I would share good news. I think it will be helpful. The cool thing, the document is pretty detailed, which at first we were nervous about because we don't want people to feel overwhelmed. But I also feel like it does a good job of like walking schools through all of the components of college and career readiness. So hopefully we'll get that out soon and you guys can give me feedback, yes or no, but hopefully that is something that schools can utilize in a meaningful way.
Awesome.
Does anyone have anything else before we move on?
Michelle, I do want to share that one of the things that I've seen success in is that the career discovery meetings felt like a weird box check at the beginning, but the schools we've worked with, I have seen such really powerful, meaningful conversations that they've created. So again, the school counselor and the career coaches working together have really made an impact on making that much more than just it's on the framework. It's a living thing in their communities, and I've been very proud of it.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. Yay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So on the framework, the pre-K to 2, like, could you give me some examples of like create a good habits chart, self-portrait and interest activity? What is a career activity? Will something be linked in for us, or are these things that we need to come up with on our own to provide for those K2 teachers?
That's a great question. I will say, since the career coaching framework is a little bit more in the CHE wheelhouse, but I do believe down the road, we will provide more resources. I can give you some experience. with pre-K through 2, um, some of the innovative work, I actually wrote a blog for CASC, but I went to San Diego to see like the world of work in action, and was actually in like a pre-K, they call it something different, but it was essentially pre-K room, where they were doing kind of centers around the RIASAC. I don't know if you're familiar with the RIASAC, but they started kind of talking career language really early on. And also understanding that it wasn't like a one-off activity that like maybe the school counselor came in and just did like a worksheet and moved on. It was more of like the teachers were engaged in the work and tying their lessons back to career. So I feel like if you're looking for some insights, maybe check out some of that work, The World of Work, Ed Hidalgo. They do the RIASAC, but it's really cool and innovative. I think they were just trying to list some examples of activities that have been done in younger grades, but I also feel like it could be more of like a holistic integration. I also know like the East Central ESC has done a ton of work with the RIASAC too. So you could also check out, I know they've had some webinars specifically with I think Ed Hidalgo, and some of the work that he's done. So I don't know. That's my spiel. So no, I don't have links to those activities, but I
Well,
also feel like there's tons of other, yeah.
right. We have, so I'm with North Lawrence and we received the career coaching grant and I feel like are doing a very good job with,
Mhm.
6th grade, middle school and especially that high school piece. So we're trying to get support with the elementary. My
Mhm.
career coach has been, trained in DeBruce. So she's certified in DeBruce. We're not necessarily real familiar with RIASEC. So we've chosen to go the DeBruce route because she was trained in that.
No, and that's great too. And I actually believe DeBruce, do they have, I think they
They
have
they
elementary
they
materials.
Okay.
They
just
just
recently released it
released
actually. I was
them.
just looking
Okay.
at some of it
Yeah.
yesterday, but I
So,
haven't looked to see if they have those specific
okay.
framework activities, but they do have like little cute YouTube videos and things like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, I would lean into whatever, use what they've created, because they had done some really good work in the elementary space. I know when we
Okay.
partnered with them with the Indiana Career Explorer.
Right.
And also there is, but this would be more in 3 to 5, but there is elementary in the Indiana Career Explorer, which is very, like a lot of the systems don't have it for the younger grades, and it
Right.
actually does. So you could tie that in as well.
We
Ellie,
And I
do,
was
I
we
just dropped in the
implement,
chat. I'm so sorry. I just
Mhm.
dropped in the chat the framework with embedded activities. So there are embedded activities from CHE
Yeah.
in the framework at that lower level. They're very basic, but it would at least give you a
right.
couple of
Yeah.
activities.
Yeah,
I-
I have that. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Our elementary students K through 6, they do participate or engage with the Indiana Career Explorer. So,
yeah.
And
And-
Kelly, I can send out as well. I don't want to mess up. I'm sharing my screen and I'm paranoid I'm going to mess it up if I go look for it right now. But we have a couple of lessons through the school counseling curriculum library
Okay.
that Amy helped develop for Counselor Connect. And
Okay.
I looked through that and I can't remember how many, but at least 1 or 2 of those was very aligned to the framework activity that they listed for
Okay.
pre-K to 2 and 3 to 5. So I can send those to you because I know the framework linked activities right now are basically just like a worksheet. But if you use the lesson plan from the curriculum library in addition to that, then it makes it a lot more robust. So I can
Okay.
send that out too.
Thank you. This is great. I've never seen this before, so I appreciate you sharing this with me. Thank you.
Thanks for
Where would I
asking.
have found this? This is great.
The curriculum library?
Yeah.
Yeah, we share it out on our Counselor Connect newsletter. So if you're not, I'm sure you are on that if you're in this Zoom, but if you're not,
Okay.
we do share it there. And then Amanda,
Okay.
where else do we have that? I think
It's also
is it on the
Counselor
website
One
yet?
Stop too.
Oh,
It's on
Counselor
Counselor
One
One
Stop.
Stop. Yep. I just linked it into the chat, but yeah, it's in our monthly newsletter. And then we have a digital content library, which is really just an Excel spreadsheet. But under each tab, it has all of our recorded content, blogs, podcast episodes. And then there is a tab labeled counseling curriculum, and it's posted there as well. It's not posted on our website yet,
Yeah.
Counselor Connect website, but we're trying to get it there. So it should be
Working on
in the
it.
near future, but yep.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you answering my questions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. All right, you can jump to the next slide. So for the next few slides, I am going to dive into a project that Indiana has been participating in. And I think I notice sometimes like there's a lot of work being done kind of at the state level that doesn't ever like trickle down the why to the folks that are doing the work. And so I would love to just provide some insight to kind of, what the state direction and where this where some of the knowledge is coming from on kind of changing and reimagining high school. So Indiana has been looking at Switzerland. They have a professional and vocational education and training system where employers and educators collaborate to develop skilled talent starting in high school. And so a group of school leaders, and you can go on their website and see there's some superintendents, and then there's a bunch of folks from the state. But they actually went to Switzerland, I think once or twice, to really see and dig in on how the Swiss system is working for them and how we can kind of replicate some of that here in Indiana, which is very innovative because a lot of states are not at this level of trying to be this innovative in providing professional vocational education and training early on in high school. So you can go to the next slide. And just to show you Switzerland's education and training system, the reason why it's such a cool system is because students can choose between an academic track, which leads to university. So that's pretty much similar to kind of our college track, or they have students that can lean into a vocational track, which leads to an apprenticeship. But as you can see, like the different crisscrosses in their system, there's like on and off ramps for students. So it doesn't mean like they can't shift direction. So the system is set up so that they could, start college prep with their high school diploma, but then seek, switch tracks to get a professional bachelor's degree and go into an apprenticeship. So there's just different ways to attain the skills. They do have a lot of robust apprenticeships in the Swiss education system that allow students to learn a trade while working under the supervision of a skilled craftsperson. They also have vocational schools that provide students with the knowledge and skills they need to be successful in their specific trade. They also have a higher education system, including universities and teacher training colleges. And the Swiss education system is designed to support lifelong learning. So kind of those stackable credentials. So not having just a necessarily like endpoint for their education. And then some of the benefits that they see from that is obviously high quality education. That's what they're known for. They have a strong workforce because their education and training system is producing highly skilled workforce that is in demand by employers. It provides social mobility for students and also is constantly evolving to meet the needs of the changing economy. So that's just a little background about the Swiss model. Go ahead and switch slides. And so part of this Indiana's new career pathway, they're calling it iLab, and those iLab members have identified essential criteria for the new pathway to address previous barriers and meet the needs of students, employers, colleges, and K-12 schools. And so that's a lot of kind of what you're seeing is the blend of you know, K-12 through college. As you know now, the educational vertical alignment is more streamlined after Braun took office. So Dr. Jenner now sits as the Office of Secretary of Education and oversees not only Department of Education, but the Commission for Higher Ed. So it's kind of, they're trying to do a more streamlined, way for students to be successful. Go to the next slide. So some of the identified things that they've learned from this first 2 years of working with the Swiss model and participating in iLab is just understanding that apprenticeship pathways should align with labor market demand that is identified by employers. So not creating apprenticeships just for the sake of creating them, but working with other employers to identify what is the need here in Indiana to keep good workforce in Indiana. The program should start in high school with on-the-job experience alongside academic instruction. So that's kind of where we're seeing more and more students engage in work-based learning experiences. They do suggest that work-based learning should be paid and have opportunities year-round. So some of that may happen down the road. The apprenticeships, 50% of the training should occur at the employer's site for maximum value. You'll hear Dr. Jenner to talk about like a lot of the skill building. We can work in the classroom on employability skills, but they truly aren't seeing, the success that they're seeing when the students are actually on the site and doing the work, working with employers. Academic instruction should be tailored to the occupation. I think of this I was talking to a student at Butler just about kind of the high school redesign, and it is kind of like college where, in college, what you kind of want to get into, and you're able to get into those classes that really align with your goal versus just taking courses to take courses that don't feel relevant and there's lack of engagement, etc. And so that's what we're seeing more and more of starting in the high school space. And then again, high school requirements being a little bit more flexible to allow more on-the-job learning and time for extracurricular activities. We've always kind of been like 8 periods a day, credits per hour. And I think we're shifting towards more of competency-based learning, that you don't necessarily need to sit in a course for 60 minutes, and earn a credit. That's not really like the helping get to where we want to go. It's more like checking boxes. So they're trying to figure out outside of the box ways that students can meet high school requirements so that they can get to the job that they want to do, or to the courses that align with what they want to do in the future. And so next steps of this program that they are working on, they're collaborating in Indiana to create some apprenticeship pathways. So Fairbanks has given some like scholarships, or has funded working with BioCrossroads and their Healthcare Talent Association, BioCrossroads and Life Sciences Talent Association. They're partnering with Connexus Indiana for advanced manufacturing and logistics. And then they're also working with the Indiana Bankers Association to do some type of like finance or banking apprenticeship. So those are the 4 that they're most likely going to start with. But I just think that it's really interesting to learn a little bit more about the Swiss education system and kind of think about where we're moving in Indiana and how the two, obviously we're not going to be Switzerland, but some of the lessons that they've seen and learned from their education system can be replicated here, especially with the new diploma requirements and high school redesign, and just really thinking about how, instead of doing what we've always done and checking boxes to meet requirements, like how could we think outside of the box and give our students like a new type of high school experience. So moving forward, if you want to go ahead and click the next slide. There are going to be some resources to help both with the career coaching framework, with some of the work-based learning that is occurring, and helping you align strategies, etc. One thing is assessing your current career coaching school counseling program. We have a great school counseling kind of asset mapping tool in our Carrying the Torch. But then we also are creating an asset mapping tool for just career coaching as a whole, that will be coming soon as well. So there'll be a toolkit to kind of help your school district look and identify gaps. And then obviously align your strategies with MTMDSS and looking at the Indiana Career Coaching Framework. And then looking at opportunities for students to do experiential learning, work-based learning, and looking at those identified modern youth apprenticeships for students to give them new experiences. And I've linked some of the resources, the career coaching framework. ASCA actually has some really good career coaching resources I don't think are talked about enough, but they have like, it's actually kind of like coaching resources, like what questions to ask students at the different levels. So it could be really helpful in that space. And obviously, if you want to learn more about iLab Indiana and the project with Fairbanks, you can click on that website and take a look at what's happening there. And that is all I have for you guys. I did list my email. Amy has hers. If you guys, we can stay on, answer any questions, or if you want to chat through anything. But yeah, thank you for having us today.
Thank
you
you
so
both.
much.
I have a question you might not know.
Yeah.
Are they going to do another cohort of that? I know they took, for the iLab, they took those organizations and some of those people went over to Switzerland and like saw it in action. Are they going to do any more like that?
I'm not sure. I just got added to like the meeting, so I'm kind of like behind in learning about where they've been and where they're moving to, but I'll definitely, wouldn't be surprised if more funding is put into like some of this project from Fairbanks.
I think Sam is volunteering to go, should you ask.
Okay, gotcha.
I'll go to Switzerland. I'll volunteer as tribute. And
Yeah.
they spoke about it at the work-based learning conference, and it sounded really interesting. And I know that ASCA actually has been collaborating with the Swiss embassy for years.
Okay. Cool. That's really good to know.
So it's been a long-term relationship off and on, but it'd be great to keep the momentum going.
Yeah, absolutely.
What other questions? Does anybody have questions, comments? Well, what I can
And
do is I can stop recording now, and then we can still remain on just in case anyone wanted casual conversations or questions not on the record. So I'll go ahead and stop that now.